All right. Hi, folks. I'm Mark. My co host here is Harry. And this is Hitting the Mark with Harry and Mark. If we haven't said this before, I guess we're going to keep including this in our intro. We like to talk about media, games, some products, maybe occasionally political stuff. Because, we're totally educated in these topics and we totally know what we're talking about. And we do this for a living. Anyway, welcome every 2.5 people listening to our podcast, including ourselves. Last week, I believe we talked about, the last 2 weeks I kind of have been like not shutting up about Star Trek. So Harry and I agreed, I confessed to Harry that I probably should have been doing this. We're going to be cutting down some of the reviews to, I think, probably one review every 5 weeks, or one review every halfway to the season, every other, halfway to the season. Just so that at the beginning of each episode, it's not like Mark hijacks 20 minutes of dialogue time to talk about Star Trek and then says, I'm not here to talk about Star Trek. So
we're not here to
today.
We're not here
to talk about Star Trek. We're here to talk about Star Wars. No. So again, the same thing will probably go for Star Wars, The Mandalorian as well. But given that Harry is behind me in the series, we're probably gonna pick his brain on it and see how he feels, because I don't shut up to any end about it, and I want to hear what he has to say. So let's start off with that, because last week you said you would catch up on a couple episodes or start off on the first season, and I'm already caught up on everything. So let me pick your brain on it. What do you think so far?
So, me being the person I am, I sat down and I am all caught up.
Fuck.
I binge watched the shit out of it. I really like it.
Was it okay? So was it kind of like a grit your teeth while the guy puts a drill through your foot, or was it kind of just
No, I really did. Again, I'm not huge into Star Wars. I didn't grow up with the the original trilogy. I grew up with the prequels. So
yeah, I think you're about 1 or 2 years older than me, so it's we've still grown up with a lot of Star Wars, because I'm from 93. You're what, 91, 92?
91.
So yeah, we both grew up in a time where it's we literally saw a dude with a red and black makeup just somersaulting some dude to death with the red lightsaber. So yeah.
So it really tickled my pickle with everything. The lore is pretty dope. Just it brings you back to certain planes that called planets.
Fucking MTG nerd.
Yeah, I know, right? Brings you back to certain planets that you've heard of and you've seen in the actual movies and stuff. So
I've got a more important question.
Yeah.
This is for the uninitiated people. I'm not being racist. If the Mandalorian were a color, what color would they be?
It's an interesting.
As an MTG man.
Oof.
Because I'm thinking white.
Yeah. I think of them when I think of Mandalorian, from what I've seen with Mandalorian, they're very, I don't know, I think it might be generic, but very Viking.
Yeah.
So I would think, Northern European stuff. So white, yeah.
No. Oh, card.
Oh, man, I'm very racist.
I called you an MTG nerd, you jackass.
But, okay, so color...
You know what? We're going to change it to the Fourth Reich with Harry and Mark. So.
Yep. Okay, so color of magic.
Harry, God, do we need to talk about this?
Probably.
Okay.
Hey, I'm very Mexican, man. We are very racist.
Yeah.
All right, color of magic. I would say
go to this, and then we'll go straight back to your brain picking. So go ahead.
I would have to go probably Boros.
Oh, I could see that. I
Yeah,
like that.
white-
I like that
white,
a
red.
little bit more than just
Yeah.
I got you. And then
Like-
you know,
I think it depends because from what I've seen from the show, because I've seen it.
with my two eyes.
There's multiple, like, I guess, tribes of Mandalorians. So, you know, I guess depending on the tribe, it seems like what I can't pronounce his name, but Mando, like, his is probably more
Din Djarin.
Din Djarin. I think he's more of a, you know, Boros color when it comes to.
Oh yeah. Now that you say that, I could totally see that.
Yeah, like for the other kinds that the other Mandos that he's seen and ran into that aren't part of the Watch, I think they might be different colors, but for sure, you know, from what I've seen from him and his clan, definitely Boros.
Okay, gotcha. So I'm sorry. I know I interrupted you. I
That's all good.
apologize. I wanted to pick your racist brain.
Mhm.
You were saying we get to go back to all these different little interesting places, yada yada. Let's get you back onto that.
Yeah, yeah. So I really like it for that, and I guess, you know, with the most recent episode, I guess we should just talk about it. The whole not Baby Yoda thing. Like, I don't know. It just seemed kind of like it definitely wasn't him. You know, like, I don't know. I've seen some things that people aren't. Well, I guess they're not, like, maybe jokingly saying they don't accept it, but it's like, I don't know. It kind of.
Yeah, no. The kid still doesn't have a fucking name to me. Still doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get where you're coming at. Before we get to the latest episode, I guess since you and I both know what we're talking about, what are some things that stuck out to you that you like about the series so far in general?
About the series,
it can literally be anything. I'm softballing you.
Yeah, like, I'm not, like, I don't know how to describe it. I'm not super into, like, critiquing shows. I'm just if something intrigues me, I watch it. You know, if something doesn't, I don't. So, but from what I've seen and what I like his character. He's like, I just like how he is. I like that there's no. I guess it's, like, for me, super, like, generic, where there's like a love triangle, or not love triangle, just like some sort of romance in it, and it's just like
there's not some extra thing mucking stuff up.
Yeah, it's just him, and then he has a goal. Like, obviously, first he was just like morally, he was like, it's not right that we need to kill this thing. It's literally just a baby, you know. And then, you know, obviously down the road, he's like, this is your job. Like, you have to go do this. And he's like, all right, it's part of my job now. I have to go do this, you know. So I don't know. I like his character.
I think I totally agree with you on that, where it's like, I think I could understand maybe like a bit where he's attracted to someone, but maybe like his beliefs kind of get in the way of that, or like they die or something. But I like the thing where it's not like, oh, I love this woman, but she loves the baby and she's a pedophile and I can't be with her because she doesn't love me, kind of thing. You know?
Yeah. The
pedophile jokes aside, where it's like there's some like contrived reason why they can't be together or whatever. The what's the episode where they're on the farming planet?
Yeah, it's
and
like
they first meet Cara Dune.
Yeah.
I think that's a great example. Like, it's like she still cares for this person and she's offering a place, but he's still kind of doing his own Mando thing, right?
Yep.
What's something that, like, you aren't a fan of? What's something that you're not really attracted to about the show? Maybe turns you off a bit. Kind of just curls your penis back into its meat shaft.
Grinds my gears. Yeah. Man, so far I've been super into it.
If you want, we don't have to touch on it, because I know from personal experience, as like a guy who goes through like movies like they're fucking cereal.
Yeah.
I tend to ask people this a lot, and I think I tend to ruin their experiences, because when they watch stuff, they're just taking it in. But with me, and I'm not like a learning computer cool or anything like that. I'm just looking at stuff and I'm like, all right, well, like this doesn't make sense to me. This feels contrived. Oh, this is cool. Oh, I wish the story went that way, all at the same time. Yeah. So when I'm like talking to someone and I say, oh, like this I thought was super contrived and I feel like I give people the impression that I'm shitting on something constantly.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm by way of radiation giving that to people. So you don't have to answer that. I just like to kind of get in the weeds about it because it's something I like to talk about.
Yeah, but I think
if you're enjoying it, you just keep enjoying it. And if there's one thing that happens, like, oh, this person is like silly, eventually, just say that. Like, it does not have to be like the structure of the Mando completely counteracts like his character. Like, don't even worry about that.
Right. Like, there are a few things that popped up that I either questioned or was like, I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I just don't recall. But there have been a few things that I just can't freaking remember what those things were.
It's
but
okay.
There were things. There definitely were. I mean, there are things that don't rub me the right way,
But I think it's fair to say that you're enjoying the show far more than like the little shit that you were trying to remember. And I think that's important. That's really good because that shows that the story is engaging. It's got some things that you really enjoy, and the things that like bother you aren't necessarily like hang-ups. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I'll say this one last thing. I do enjoy that they bring in random like people to do it, like little I guess what's the word, like cameos, like come in and do cameos. I really like that. Like some of them are super generic, but
but some of them are good.
Some of them are really good. Like when we're watching it, like some of them I don't even know, but Livy's like, oh, that's this person. I'm like, what? Like just by the voice, I'm like, and then we look it up and it's like, oh yeah, it's that person. Holy shit, that's crazy.
So you know the little cameo from the first episode of the second season, right? When they're in like the weird Gamorrean boxing knife challenge thing.
No, I do not.
So Sid from Ice Age, right?
Yes.
John Leguizamo, the car, like the chop shop dude from John Wick. So I was sitting watching the first episode with my girlfriend, and it struck me that John Leguizamo was in the first episode, right?
Huh.
So I turned to her as the one-eyed green dude is getting like strung up and is trying to confess all this information. I'm like, baby, who does that sound like to you? And she looks at me and she's like, wait, what? What are you talking about? And I totally took her out of the moment too because she's trying to focus on the story and I'm like a moment ahead of her. So there's the bit when the Mando like says, oh, you won't die by my hand. Die by my hand. And then like he gets the information and then destroys the light bulb that's like preventing the red-eyed things from attacking. And the moment the green one-eyed dude starts screaming at the top of his lungs, she looks at me and she says, it's Sid the Sloth from Ice Age. And it's so good because John Leguizamo has like a 2-minute cameo as this highly make-upped. I don't know if I would probably assume that either he did the full makeup outfit as that part, or someone did a body double and he just narrated, did the voiceover work for that. Because it almost looks like that whole face region of that character was some kind of animatronic. But it's so good either way. But yeah, completely agree with the cameos.
Yeah. Sorry, this is seriously the last thing. Just because, shit, puppetry and just less CGI than. I think that's what makes me like it. There's less CGI and actual practical effects. Like even the Baby Yoda, like you can tell it's a puppet.
Oh yeah,
and I really like that.
it gets to moments where it's like they'll have the puppet climbing something or reaching for something or doing something. And one of the things that I've always told you is I've always wanted to work with like a combination of CGI and puppetry. And there's that really great bit in the second episode of the second season when they're on the ice planet and he's digging at those like little eggs for the little baby spider, and like that's partial, and I'm like, that looks so damn good. But yeah, fun fact with the CGI, most of that most of the environment that they're in isn't even on set or on location. It's this really nifty effect that they last thing before we move on, it's this really nifty effect that they picked up from a movie called Oblivion, a Tom Cruise movie in like 2014, 2013, I can't remember. But essentially, a duration of the movie was this set that's supposed to be this giant like cabin or like building that's on this tether in the middle of the stratosphere, right? So instead of doing CGI, where they would have to like generate artificial light, artificial reflections, which looks really bad, they just took the set and put a giant tarp around the entire thing and just recorded an entire daylight cycle or a couple of them and just filmed or projected the daylight cycles onto the tarps or the screens, so you had a natural light effect. And that's what they're doing for the Mando, where they're giving you like the basic like floor set, and they're putting a giant tarp over these characters with like partial CGI but partial like actual landscape, so that you're getting like the full lighting and coloring on their armor, on their like body, which is really, really good, because then you don't have to fake most of the other stuff, which is so unattractive. Like there's one scene in The Mandalorian that I can't remember what it is. It's the second episode of the first season when he's hightailing it back to the ship after the Jawas like ransack it, and he gets ambushed by the God, what are they? The lizard people. They enslaved the Wookiees. Doesn't matter. That whole like orange cave ambush scene is an example of that. He's not in like a cave. It's not even a reproduced like set. The floor is just one random balsa wood rock, and then the rest of it is just this tarp. And it's so damn impressive.
That's dope.
But yeah, just seeing stuff like that and seeing the amount of lengths that they go to. I'm not gonna lie, I hate the fact that the original Star Wars had that look and style because they were pretty much friggin' spent and broke. And now the new Star Wars franchises are like, oh man, we have so much money, we can make everything look like we're fucking going broke. We have to like stretch the budget. So yeah. Anyway, so let's see.
We'll transition to the next, where I want to talk about, because we talked about last week about the match cards, full art, yada yada.
Right.
So since we're talking about Mandalorian Star Wars and we talked about Magic cards, I think it'd be dope if they did like a crossover where they did kind of like those full art cards but with sci-fi. I don't know if you saw the Godzilla cards.
Yeah, you've mentioned that.
Yeah, so
we talked about that last week too, I believe.
Yeah, so like I think it was earlier this year, they had basically Godzilla cards. Like it's a Magic card, and then it had like Godzilla or Kingdra.
Kaiju.
Yeah, basically, and it's like a cool little crossover between Godzilla and Magic, and it was really dope. I kind of wanted to buy the cards, but I was kind of like, I mean, I don't really want to collect those. It's not my cup of tea,
Yeah, I don't know why. I completely agree with you on that, where it's like, oh, it's pretty cool. I'll just let that pass.
Yeah, but I think it'd be dope to do it with something like Star Wars, because Star Wars is a big franchise, I think it'd be dope. Like, cross over the sci-fi and the fantasy world of, like, no way I want Magic to have Magic cards like that are sci-fi based. You know what I mean? I don't ever want that, because Magic is a fantasy world, and I want to keep it that way. Yeah. But I think it'd be cool to have because what they did with the Godzilla cards is that card was still the Magic card, but it had a different name on top, and underneath it had the actual card's name that it represented. But it had the name of like Godzilla or Kingdra or whatever, and then it had like a picture of Godzilla.
Let's take a look. Yeah, I'm looking at one right now. Yeah. I'm looking at Anguirus or fucking weebs. Please God, be gentle on me. Anguirus, Armored Killer, and it's it's so grainy. Let's.
But yeah, underneath it has another name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I think that'd be cool with
Kaiju Insect.
Yeah. Rafe? I think I lost Rafe. Uh-oh. No. Mark. Oh. Hello? Nope. Let's see if hello?
Why would you do that to me?
You roboted and dropped.
I got dropped into the Blender dimension.
I'm so sorry.
Where did sorry for anyone inconvenienced by that. Where did I drop off from?
You dropped off after you were trying to read Mothra's name.
Okay, so Anguirus.
Yes.
Okay, let's see Baby Godzilla. Oh, I like that. Now that I see what you're talking about. So right here I got Baby Godzilla, Ruin Reborn, and then it says Poliwag Symbiote.
Yep. So
gotcha. That makes so much sense. And then I have Gigan, Cyberclaw Terror, Garuda, Doom of the Depths, or Doom of Depths. Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So I think that would be cool doing it with like obviously because we're talking about Star Wars, but there's people who've done like alternate art, like they did a bunch for the Guardians of the Galaxy. I need to look that up again, but I know I ran into it, and it's pretty dope. Obviously a lot of the creatures are humans because most people are humanoid and stuff. So but I think it's still pretty cool to like do that.
Since we're on that, to be honest, I would love to see a Kaladesh like plane that's in outer space. Like, I'm not saying like fucking Star Trek or Star Wars everything, but I mean I'd really like to see like a vehicles type card type with that very beautiful like metallurgy Kaladesh style.
That would be a sick, like, using vehicles, and then you like certain vehicles like the Millennium Falcon and all that stuff. Like that would be pretty dope, actually. Now that you're saying it, I think that would be dope.
Harry, if you got me the Biollante card, I would do sexual favors to you. No, I'm kidding. I would go ham for the fucking Ghidorah, or find Ghidra.
Yeah.
Fucking weebs. The art for this is so gorgeous. Whenever we talk about Magic, I always feel terrible because I feel like I'm asking the one blind kid, like, oh, hey, do you like this color or that color? And then you just pause for a moment and you're like, oh, man, sorry. Because, like, I think when we talk about Magic the Gathering cards, I'm like, oh, man, this Ghidorah card is really cool. We're not giving any context as to what the card looks like.
Right.
Not to mention fans who aren't initiated into Magic the Gathering, too. So they're like, too bad bitch talking about.
What are they talking about? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the downside, but, yeah.
I think if I could give, like, a small break into the conversation, but into, like, our future a little bit, I wouldn't mind if we did maybe something along the lines of, like, related images or videos during our conversations. I know that would probably be a lot of time and effort, but like oh, we're talking about this card. We'll probably like bring it onto the screen for YouTube when we're talking, right?
Okay.
But yeah, it's just something.
Yeah.
But I actually didn't know that these were formatted this way, because this is actually really cool.
Yeah, I think they obviously made great strides with that, and like we discussed last week with the Bob Ross and the metal flyer ones, you know.
Oh yeah.
So like, it's a certain realm that a lot of Magic players don't want Magic to go to, but at the same time, like, it's certain niche people that would be super down for it. And
I mean, it's not a box set.
It's not.
So I don't really get the big deal if like they're not even like a dozen cards. If you well, it's more than a dozen. I'm sorry, I don't mean to mitigate that. Like, if you're putting out at least 25 cards, that's nothing.
Yeah. Now, like the Godzilla ones are like, I think the Godzilla ones were about 25 cards, and then obviously the secret layers, like the Bob Ross one and the Metal Flyer ones, those are like 5 or 4 or 5, depending on which one you get. You know, depends on which one you get. It's between 4 and 5.
Not, like, I can understand where someone would be like, "Oh, Magic's not what it used to be," and they're just making you know, for anything. But like,
right.
One, Wizards of the Coast is just going to do this shit to make money, and that's fine. While they're making money, why not just fucking make it as appealing as possible?
Yeah.
2, I would totally collect a couple of these. Like, there's no harm in making more stuff.
Yeah.
There's no harm at all. If anything, like, some of this art is so damn cool.
Yeah.
And like, there is probably a large grouping of people here who would love to collect stuff like this. So more power to them too. So like, it's not like we're going to create a modern legal thing for this, or like there's going to be some kind of formatting requirement.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a non-issue. This is a nothing burger.
Agreed.
Oh my god, that looks so good. Anyway, my apologies. I got a little excited there, guys. Guys and humans. Bear?
Yeah,
Bear?
I'm here.
Snake? Okay, good.
All right. Next topic?
Yeah, fuck yeah. So, did you want to talk about Phoenix Rising or Cyberpunk, or did you want to go, because I'm fine without talking necessarily about the PS5 scalping thing, because I would like to talk a bit more in depth about it, and I feel like I would rather keep this more in the fun discussion than like, oh, people are assholes kind of thing. I'd like to do that next week, because there are a couple things that are unfolding with that, and the monolith. So yeah. Oh, it's a fucking, I don't know what's going on here. It's the monoliths that are appearing all over the world.
Yeah, I was fucking reading up on that too. It's crazy.
Yeah, we're gonna die. The aliens are gonna read our podcast and they're gonna be like, that guy's funny.
Yeah, monsters are crazy.
We will spare him.
We will spare him.
And his funny white friend.
Yeah. So one popped up in California recently, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're talking about the fucking monoliths now. This is a conspiracy theory podcast now, guys.
It's crazy. Like, I obviously feel like it's just a group of people like, let's fuck with everyone.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish it was fucking something, just something real, something tangible. No, like, in all honesty, I think it's probably like a performance thing. I haven't read any of the articles regarding it, so if I'm saying it's a performance thing and some like neckbeard is like, actually, there's considerable proof that this is a strategy. Like, I will gladly read all of the the liberal media, all of the articles related to this, so that we can talk about it. Let's talk about this, the scalping, next week. Okay, yeah. Bear?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. Right. So, when this video is going to be released, I think it's probably going to be about 3 or 4 days before Cyberpunk comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're not all that particularly excited about it, but it is nonetheless, I think, something important to talk about, just because it has been in the works for like 10 years, supposedly.
Oh.
They released the trailer for it in like 2013, 2014. They've pushed it back like a couple of times. It has been just germinating in people's minds for a while. And it's finally coming out next week.
Is it?
And there are... Oh, yeah.
Are we sure? Are we sure about that?
Right, yeah.
With all the delays.
We're going to push it back. There are a couple people who keep saying, like, they're not going to believe it comes out until they have it in their hands. And I'm thinking... As soon as you said that, I was like, oh, wait. Oh, no. Oh, God, I'm going to have to wait longer.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
This is definitely... I'm not going to be like... I'm trying not to be hyperbole, but... Or use hyperbole, but... This thing is... It's shaping up to be kind of like a phenomenon. Like,
right.
CD Projekt Red made their bones with the Witcher franchise. The Witcher 3 is like a feat of wonder, especially with the free DLC that they put in at the end. But they made their bones with the Witcher franchise, and they're moving on to Cyber D&D now, and everyone's been excited. I mean, even Keanu Reeves is excited. But
yeah.
I sadly got the conservative brain. I'm not the conservative brain, the capitalist brain. My lizard brain was like, you have to be excited about this game. So out of all this time, I was just like, oh, cool, Cyberpunk. That seems interesting. You know, whatever. The trailer looks cool. Then the next trailer comes out like 6 years later. That looks fine. Whatever. Fucking a month ago. Oh, we brought a new trailer. And, yeah, cool, whatever. Fucking... A week ago. Oh, man, it's coming out in 2 weeks? Oh, dude. I gotta get it. So I reserved it, right? And I'm excited. And to slow my excitement, to curb it, I then got another game that I wasn't even that excited about. I got Immortals Phoenix Rising. Ha, viewers, you thought this was going to be a conversation about Cyberpunk? In your face. This is going to be a discussion about fucking Ubisoft's Breath of the Wild, bitch. So, yeah.
I was wondering where this was going. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got you there. In our little discussion topic audience, there's like a couple of things that we'll decide to talk about. And then in that I listed, we're going to talk about Immortals Phoenix Rising, Cyberpunk, a couple other things, And yeah, naturally, Cyberpunk should have been the bigger thing, but we're not talking about that yet. If I may, Harry,
yes,
I would like to discuss some of Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, cool. I mean, all I know about it is that it is a Greek style, as you said, Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
That's all I really heard about it.
So, I pre-ordered the game 2 days ago.
Okay.
And I was going to play it last night, but I had to be a really good boyfriend for my girlfriend, who was a sleepy little burrito. And I rolled her ass into the blankets, and I fell asleep. And then I was going to try playing it this afternoon when I got off work.
Yeah.
But I had to stay super long. And then I was going to play it a couple hours before I did this podcast. And I couldn't, because I had to figure out some of the articles that I wanted to do. And turns out I didn't need any. So I'm even more angry. So I'm like an hour away from podcasting you, and I pop in this game, right? And I'm torn between two things. I'm torn between wanting to like vindictively gouge this game's eyes out for being like kind of a copy and paste of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but I'm also really, really happy that Ubisoft tried so very hard to make an enjoyable version of Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah.
So, okay, jokes aside, basically, story-wise, one of the typical Greek villains, Typhon, has essentially cursed a couple of the gods, and it's up to this Phoenix, to save these gods and whatever. So you're on this island, and you are tasked to free these gods and defeat Typhon. And it has the same kind of mechanics. It has a climbing and stamina system. It has a gliding effect. The combat is different. But I feel like the best way I can compare this game at the moment, and keep in mind, folks, I've played like literally an hour of this game. I will give more updates the longer I play, because I love talking, and every time Harry gets a word in edgewise, I have to cut him off like Ellen DeGeneres. But what I get the impression of is that this game was made in like 2002, and I'm playing like the remastered version.
Huh.
Like, it almost feels like the controls don't work for me. Like, the jump mechanics feel laggy. Like, everything that I really don't want to compare this game to Breath of the Wild. It's fun, it's expansive. I don't want to just say just because it has a stamina system and it has all this shit, like it's Breath of the Wild. But it chooses to do a couple things that don't do it any service in the way of comparing. Like the stamina system, which doesn't work. Traversal is almost the same. It's really frustrating because there's no like alternating speed. You're just running at the same pace, and then you're climbing, and I can't jump when you climb, and it's really tedious. One of the things that I loved about Breath of the Wild is your sense of exploration. Like, you crawl out of the chamber, you look at the horizon, you see the fucking Hyrule Castle in the background, and you're like, fuck, I want to explore that. And you look around a bit, and the plateau is like this little mini microcosm of like exploration. Like, oh, hey, you go over here and you can do this, and you can get there anytime you want. You take your time, pal. Are you winning yet, champ? And that kind of thing. And then when you get out onto Hyrule and you go across all these beautiful plains and mountains and volcanoes and tundras and deserts, you're discovering everything every moment, and there's always something in the distance to look for. And the problem that I always have with Ubisoft is they've done this goddamn thing where they either put these towers up, which immediately illuminate anything you're looking for once you get to the tower, or like it becomes a knock this thing off the map list. And I was so excited at one point because I didn't think Ubisoft was going to fall for it again, and they did.
Yeesh.
There's this mechanic where you can get super high, and then you hold down the right analog stick, and you're just like, you're in this visual like first person mode scanning the horizon, and it does this really blocky like the closer your like crosshair gets to a point of interest, it like has this like aura around it, and then you can trigger it, and then it's permanently there. And then now this immediately becomes look at your map and cross shit off the crop. I am so sorry, Harry. Cross stuff off the map, which is something that I truly don't mind, but it's the fact that like Ubisoft just keeps doing it to me, which is bothersome. Like, I like that it's a watered-down version of an Odyssey, basically. It's fun, it's comical, it's cartoony, I haven't gotten that far into the combat yet. I'm interested in trying it. It feels a little hack and slashy. I'm not too sure yet because I haven't gotten any like combos or power-ups or anything like that. I'm still a basic ass bitch in this game. But like I still feel like it's kind of in the shadow of something like Legend of Zelda. And I appreciate Ubisoft trying to go in a slightly different avenue, but it's like it's going in an avenue with like some of the baggage that Ubisoft does.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Where it's like,
yeah,
you know, big expansive place. Doesn't look like there's too much to do. Go to this icon. Go to that icon. Unlock this. It shows you a whole bunch of other things to do. Get all these different currencies to spend on other useless shit. And like, I'm having a hard time wanting to play for the sake of like wanting to play the same way I wanted to play for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where it was like, oh, I can't wait to get to the bottom left corner of the map in the fucking the desert to find this or that, or like to ride these things and figure out what, because it's like that is what the beauty of the Legend of Zelda franchise is about. It's always been about discovery. It's always been about like seeing what's around the corner.
Yeah.
And I feel like Ubisoft was like, we need this, but we don't need the most crucial thing that makes Legend of Zelda Legend of Zelda.
Yeah. I mean,
like the only, oh, go ahead, bud.
No, I was gonna say, like, that's why I'm at some point I'm gonna be replaying New Vegas, because that's how I felt with that, where I see something hella far away. I'm like, I'm gonna go over there.
I'm going for that. Yeah. Like when this trailer for the first trailer for it came, fucking Christ, folks, I'm so sorry. I have a stutter every so often. It crops up. You'll deal with it eventually. When I first saw the trailer for this game and saw some of like the initial stuff, it looked more like Legend of Zelda, and I was actually a little more attracted to it because of the idea of like, I would love to go in like a Greek pantheon thing without any like prompting to, and see stuff and explore it and figure out what clues it has, than to be like led there and told to go there, or like, oh hey, this little icon here is like screaming at you to go. That being said, it still looks fun. It still looks enjoyable. Again, I know I'm harping on it hard, but these are just like my first couple of impressions. I still want to get into the combat. I still want to check out the leveling system. I still haven't really even developed an opinion yet on the art style or anything like that. So I'm going to be continually talking about this over at least the next 2 or 3 podcasts, if that's okay with the Bear.
Of course.
You got it. Bear.
Yeah.
Is there any game you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about Fallout New Vegas? You snuck that in there on me. I think you want to talk about Fallout New Vegas.
That can be for another podcast. Once I start it, I'll discuss it more. What I do want to talk about is this tweet that I saw the other day.
Ooh, a twat?
Yeah, a twat.
Nice.
Basically, people... Okay, so I kind of like... There's this discussion that people are comparing Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, saying one is greater than the other. And I think that's where it started. So, you know, we have our own opinions and stuff, but for some reason, people... So there's this tweet, and they're saying, one has to go, movie disappears forever, which one are you losing? It has Harry Potter, Star Wars, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or Lord of the Rings. And I think this is...
This is one of those age-old questions.
Yeah, and like the comparison of Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, like, I don't know why people even try to compare those two movies, but this one is like, I'm also in the same boat. Like, how are you? Like, at first I was like, how are you comparing them? But the question is not saying which one's better. It's saying, if you had to lose one of these, which one are you just getting rid of forever?
Yeah, it's kind of like those, if you had a superpower, which one would it be kind of thing. Like, you're meant to suffer just by the nature of the question.
Yeah, like me being super biased, I'm going to keep Lord of the Rings 100%.
No, I completely agree with you. You go ahead. Let me hear your logic. Let me hear your countdown.
Like, to me, like, Lord of the Rings, just cinematic, like, masterpiece. There's no way I'm getting rid of that. Star Wars is one of those movies, it's one of those series that brought nerd culture into, like, the popular eye. And it has obviously also influenced many films. Even though the newer ones aren't that great or whatever, it's still the originals and the prequels did what they needed to do. And
they told a complete story.
And the Marvel universe, just being I think a great storyline, like a really good ramp up to Endgame, and also making nerd culture into the popular eye and made it not, you know what I mean? To me, Harry Potter, I don't see anything great about it. Like, don't get me wrong, the best way I can describe the Harry Potter series is entertaining, but that's it. Like, the movies were, again, entertaining, but there wasn't anything that I haven't seen before. There's not this, like, great story behind it. Like, yes, it's, like, to me, like, when I was a young adult, I got into it, right? You know, these came out when I was in 5th grade, I believe. The first movie came out. And I was like, okay, this is cool. You know, like, I didn't watch anything after the first one. Like, I saw the first one, so that's cool. Second, third came out. I didn't go see him. I didn't see him at all. I didn't see him until I was an adult, and the last one was out, and I was like, holy shit, like, there's been movies in between? You know what I mean? Like, right? So, like, I'm just saying, like, and I've watched all of them since. I watched all of them since, and it's a cool little story. You know, I'm not harping on it. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just like, if you're putting it in the same pedestal as Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I don't know how that's even, like, that shouldn't be an option. Like, it should just be like, that one's super easy. But obviously there are people who make cases that Harry Potter should be up there.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair that people are making the argument. I think, were we to do a numerical value, I know that you would put Lord of the Rings at number 1. I'm thinking cinematic universe is probably a 2 and Star Wars is 3.
For me, I think it would. Yeah, I think that would be my personal. Yeah, I would order it that way. For me personally.
4 black hole would be Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So I because it would make me feel bad. If one has to go, the movie disappears forever. Harry Potter, but does that mean that Rupert Grint, Daniel Radcliffe, and oh my God, Emily Watson don't have careers? Like, they never had one in the first place? Because that would be some scary shit, Doc. Do they still have their careers and they still, like, still, like, successful, but everyone just forgets how they were famous?
I mean, again, this is a hypothetical. I have no idea. Like,
you're killing me, Bear.
I'm so sorry. I don't know. How do you feel? Do you, like, to me, like, I don't even think Harry Potter should be in the discussion.
I think I don't necessarily think that's fair. Like, I think you and I can have opinions on it, but we can't deny that the Harry Potter franchise has been massively transformative. It's, I mean, I don't disagree with you at all. I think the Lord of the Rings is far superior in terms of storytelling, in terms of like the message, especially when it came to stuff like The Hobbit, which was about like personal growth. Like one of the more mature children's books, and then they make a follow-up sequel. Like, I'm with you. I completely agree. The MCU, I like the worst take in the world from someone like Martin Scorsese is that like the MCU is just trash. I do agree that it's a bit like fast food, or maybe a bit like candy, if that's a little more flattering. That like good candy should be savored and like and enjoyed. And sometimes the MCU is kind of like Smarties that you just shovel into your mouth like 50 at a time.
Yeah.
Star Wars is a franchise that I held dear as a child. Again, like we were talking before, you and I grew up in an era with the prequels, where we could digest the prequels and enjoy them. And then the sequel trilogy came out, and then the next generation, the previous generation before us, had a lot of really bad things to say about it. And I was just kind of like, this is just kind of like corporatization a bit. You know, it lost some of its luster. But again, Star Wars, at least the very first one, everyone out there, my favorite Star Wars movie is Episode 5, Fight Me. The first one is, again, like this transformative film. There's a really great YouTuber and blog fella called Film Crit Hulk, and he does a 50-minute video where he breaks down like what makes Star Wars so goddamn good. And that's just in terms of like storytelling. That's it. Like, I'm not talking about like, oh, laser swords, like my sense of like childhood, or like, you know, all this other bullshit like shooting guns and crap, or like how he mixes mythologies. But just on a technical level, in terms of like the story, how it manages to rope in the viewer, keep their suspense and entertainment and that kind of thing. And that's important.
Right.
Harry Potter, again, like I know you were saying like it wasn't really a thing for you. I felt my parents would read it to me. I read it a little bit when I could like confidently read on my own. I watched all the movies. I was there laughing my ass off when Dobby died in the 7-part A one.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed them. I genuinely enjoyed them. I think I'm coming from it from a different standpoint because I have some misgivings with J.K. Rowling now, and her Twitter or tirade, ignorant bullshit stuff that she's perpetuating. But to be fair, I think this is a tough one because I don't feel strongly about Harry Potter, but I don't feel strongly enough that like it doesn't deserve its place. Man, you're killing me. You're killing me. If I had to say, I think I would say Harry Potter.
So,
but I still haven't like thought through my rationale. Like, oh well, what makes it better than the MCU? Because they both have really great like emotional waypoints. And so you go ahead, Harry. I
was gonna say, because this is specifically the movies, not the books. Because if it was the books, I mean, Star Wars doesn't really have original books, you know. At least
it has comic.
like,
and it's got that cool Barnes and Noble Shakespeare adaptation. You take it back, fucker.
You know, and like Marvel has, you know, like when was the first Marvel book or comic that came out? Like
Marvel book.
You know what I mean? God damn it.
Honestly, I don't. We could go over the history of that sometime, like a fucking coloring book.
Right.
I don't.
What I'm saying is like Marvel's been around for a very long time. Lord of the Rings has been around for a very long time. So is Star Wars.
Yeah, 70.
Where Harry Potter,
years,
like
8 years almost.
It was written when? Like
30 years ago.
Yeah.
About.
So it's like, to me, I'm like, that's not really like groundbreaking in writing. You know, you're not influenced. Like, yes, you were big enough and you made movies and stuff like that. That's cool, but you know, like I don't know, like, it's just, to me, it's like, if we're just talking about movies, you know what I mean? Like, I still will only do Harry Potter. If we're including books and lore and all that, I would 100% not even include Harry Potter. Like, dude, you've only been around for a couple decades.
That's tough. That's the thing, though, is that, like, the MCU, if we're talking only media, the MCU has only been around for 12 years. Barely 12 years. No, actually, no, hold on. Because Disney didn't even own Iron Man. They bought Iron Man after, or they bought the entire rights to all this shit after the success of Iron Man 1. So less than 12 years. I understand what you're saying. I don't necessarily want to judge something just on its age or like whether it's wet behind the ears or not. But to be honest, some of MCU's solid movies I don't even think stack up to one or two of the good Harry Potter films. That's the thing. Like Harry Potter 3 is so goddamn good in terms of like how it's written, how it's paced. Like it lends a lot from J.K. Rowling's writing, which is solid mystery writing or solid like setup and payoff. But like Harry Potter 3 is just one of the best ones out there. And it's an example of a really good filmmaker kind of flexing their quality of filmmaking on this franchise. Like, I mean, fucking, okay, let's see. What does MCU have? MCU has, at best, Black Panther, Thor Ragnarok, Endgame,
probably Guardians of the
Infinity War, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, Spider-Man. Iron Man. Like, I think those are probably up there as the best ones. Again, if we want to do a detailed, like, once over... No, you know what? Winter Soldier and Civil War, more so Winter Soldier. If we want to do a detailed comb over of, like, these movies, that's fine. But, like, let's say those are the best ones, right? Not even all of the Avengers movies. Not even fucking Ultron. Not even the Avengers. Not even whatever.
I can back that, yeah.
I would still put Harry Potter 3, at least Harry Potter 3, up against a couple of those movies.
Fair enough.
Because I feel that one of the things that the Harry Potter movies has that that the MCU movies are losing is a sense of originality and a sense of a lack of constraint. Harry Potter as the franchise, these movies, again, I'm not a big fan of like, oh, he goes back to school and every year it's a new thing because it's a new book. But like, there's always a new story and there's a new mystery, and it's almost always really decently constructed, right? Whereas the formula for almost all of these MCU movies is, we need to focus on this really charismatic actor and his performance of this really charismatic, or hers, sorry, because we are getting Black Widow coming out. I'm excited about that. Their charismatic performance and that. But almost all of these are like the same.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I love Black Panther in terms of like the character and how that's written, it's still the same, like, oh, you've got a lot to learn. No, I don't. We'll see. Something stirs the pot. Ba 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 ba. This challenges everything I know. I don't want to be the person I thought I was because this is dangerous. Let's be someone better. Let's do something better. That's every MCU movie. I literally just said Black Panther, and you could apply that to Thor Ragnarok.
Fair enough.
Just subtract Chadwick Boseman and just substitute Chris Hemsworth and just do the same thing with fucking what's another one? Iron Man. Same thing with Iron Man. Oh, I'm this way. This way needs to change. I'm changing. Something bad happens that challenges my worldview. And it's like there's no thing.
Yeah.
There's no originality, and the whole corporate style is hog-tying the storytelling. Lessons from a Screenplay, another really great YouTuber who breaks down writing in films, talks about how like the whole need to keep a 3-act structure is just cookie cutting these movies. So I'm not saying Harry Potter does not have this formulaic process to it, but I think it's so much more evident in the MCU movies because these are specifically movies that are not directly adapting comics. They're creating movies based on amalgamations of other comics around these specific characters. Like Thor Ragnarok isn't based around a completely singular comic. Like Planet Hulk, fucking what's the other one? Thor Odinson, and all this other shit. But like Harry Potter 3, 4, 5, and 6 are literally based off of Harry Potter 3, 4, 5, and 6, the books, which is a tight loose. God, I took a media class for this kind of shit. Is a fairly close adaptation to the book. So they're playing off of the book's choice of narrative.
Okay.
But that's the thing. Okay. And now I lost my train of thought.
No, I mean, you're right. Like now that you talk about it, I think I can get on board with movies, only movies. You know, because I know, like I think I've seen 90% of the Marvel movies. I've seen all of the Harry Potter movies. I've seen all the Star Wars movies, and I've seen the Lord of the Rings about like 45 to 75 times. So
oh yeah, fuck yeah, extended edition, bitch. So hold on, do you consider the Hobbit movies part of the Lord of the Rings franchise? Because that hurts the Lord of the Rings franchise, really, in my opinion. And I don't mean that as a fanboy. I just mean in terms of like in terms of like solid storytelling and how they planned it out in the first place. It's the same thing with it's the same thing with the sequel trilogy. Like I've told you this many a time where it's like I love The Last Jedi. I think The Last Jedi deconstructs the concept of the Force and the binary nature of the Jedi and the Sith and all that bullshit in a way that no other fucking movie does for Star Wars. But then you have an okay movie to start the sequel franchise off, and then you've got a movie that literally spits in the face of its previous movie and just ends it on like an inside out imploding diarrhea bomb. And then on top of that, for the Lord of the Rings, and I love you, Harry, I genuinely do. So when I criticize parts of The Hobbit, I want you to know that I am not attacking you.
Oh, I hate The Hobbit. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing. That's the thing is that it's still part of the Lord of the Rings franchise. If we will agree on that, the thing is that The Hobbit was written first. And then The Lord of the Rings was written second, but The Lord of the Rings was adapted live action first, and then they decided to adapt The Hobbit as if it was a prequel and not a novel that was just written before The Lord of the Rings. That's why there's so much extra filler with Sauron and going to find the Necromancer, and the movie hurts itself by trying to explain all this stuff by being a lead into the Lord of the Rings. So does that hurt the quality of the Lord of the Rings as a franchise? Just as the sequel trilogy, I think we can agree, hurts the quality of Star Wars.
Yeah, okay.
Because I can guarantee you I do think the Harry Potter franchise is a consistently good franchise.
Yeah.
Like okay. I get it. I get what you're saying, that in terms of like the quality, like don't get me wrong, Lord of the Rings is the highest quality fantasy trilogy ever, and I will never ever say that about any other fucking fantasy series ever.
I agree. Like now that you're if we're adding The Hobbit under Lord of the Rings, I would agree, out of these four, out of the series, Harry Potter has been the most consistent. I will stand by that 100%. Yeah, I will say that, because the question is about which movies, not which story, which lore. It's just which
right.
movies. And if we're just comparing all the movies, because you're right, like The Hobbit just fucking chain and balls Lord of the Rings so hard to the floor. Yeah. You know,
don't get me wrong. Harry Potter is still the one to go, in my opinion. But I do think it does not deserve some thought. Not without thought.
Fair enough. And I'll accept that I was wrong to just not even consider it.
Oh, no. You weren't wrong at all. Like, I completely get where you're coming from. But, like, I do think that we are talking about works that a lot of people put a lot of effort into. That we can't just put aside. But I do agree, even in the beginning and even when we've considered it in the end, I do still think Harry Potter would be the one to go.
For sure. And again, this is just movies, not books, comics, and, you know, stuff from before. It's just literally just movies. Because I think if we were bringing in everything, it would be a completely different topic.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I think we can do that some other time for sure. Like, I guess, like I said before, there's a tweet about Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. Like, people were bringing up discussions of like some of these people. I swear, they're like, "Oh, Lord of the Rings is only 3 books, like compared to
that
Harry Potter's like."
Fucking matter.
And I was like, well, first of all, I was like, well, it's not just 3 books. Like, the world is. Yeah. There's a lot you're missing, my friend.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that I don't think quantity should. Well, quantity should not necessarily trump quality.
But
because it's like, go ahead.
I mean, at that point, quantity not over quality, right? It's like, but at the same time, if you're talking about something like Lord of the Rings, where there has been a lot, like there's a lot of story building, and not just story building. Tolkien created a world.
Oh yeah,
he created an entire.
He definitely got on all fours.
He beginning of time, of that land, of that world. He describes it in the Silmarillion from the beginning of time up until wherever he was still writing, stuff, before he passed away. It's an unfinished world that he created. It's not just one thing. It's an entire world. Same thing with Star Wars. It's for that, it's an entire universe. It's like you're going to planet to planet to planet. So it's like, it's hard. Like, no offense to Rowling and their books and world, but it's like you can't, you know what I mean? Like, and you always go to that thing. If it wasn't for Tolkien and his writings, like stuff like Harry Potter might not even exist.
You're right. I don't necessarily want to get caught too much in that, because I feel like it's kind of a logic trap, because it just shuts down any argument, like any quality argument you could have. Because if I want to make a good faith argument with you, like, I would say that I think Rowling's writing can be more accessible, especially given how she writes mystery. Whereas, like, sometimes Tolkien can be very, very lofty. Like, I was just I don't believe I told you last week, I actually started reading The Hobbit, and like, it's very not chatty, but he goes on. Yeah. And sometimes that, I can imagine that might be unattractive. Whereas I think J.K. Rowling is a slightly more, because she's a later writer, by the way.
Yeah, fair enough.
She's a slightly more refined writer, where she's very pinpointed in what she wants you to know and how to tell it to you. But I completely agree. I think J.K. Rowling, J.R.R. Tolkien literally got on all fours and fucking just created this world that is just so rich with music. Like, again, Hobbit, I've literally gotten to 2 or 3 songs that he comes up with in the first goddamn chapter.
Yes.
The first friggin' chapter. Like, I get that, like, Harry Potter franchise has this quirkiness to it, and you know, the tale of Beetle the Bard, and Gilderoy Lockhart and signing the Order of Merlin, and you kind of get like funneled into all these interesting things that you want to learn more and more about. But it's like he literally embeds this culture that I just fucking find out about, dwarves, with like this sob story about Smaug, and it's so goddamn heart-wrenching. And believe it or not, The Hobbit actually makes that song so much more enjoyable. If I can give them credit. It's like, it's impressive. It really is. And I remember looking at the rune map in the book, because every Hobbit book has that rune map. And I remember watching the cartoon as a kid and them talking about moon runes showing the path, and seeing it in the movie. And I shit you not. Y'all can make fun of me as much as you goddamn want. I really don't care. I held that book up to the light to see if moon runes would be shown. They didn't, but like that slight sense of wonder and hope that it could be there hits me every time I think of the Lord of the Rings. Don't get me wrong, like the idea of like swishing and flicking a fucking wand is fun. I'm not saying that I don't have the same feeling, but The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit book, Lord of the Rings movie, will always hold that sense of wonder for me.
Yeah.
Always. Always. And I know it's got the same one for you.
Yeah. Yeah, all right. I mean, you definitely changed my mind on, or at least my mindset on...
Harry Potter deserves to be destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, because then, I don't know, like there's the whole Fantastic Beasts stuff, and yeah.
No, we're not talking about that. No. You can't operate on Hogwarts. Yeah, no, we're no. If we're talking about that anytime, it's Mads Mikkelsen, Hannibal, the fucking my favorite thing to come out of North Europe is going to be playing fucking, oh my god, that's what happens when I insert trivia at the last minute. He's going to be playing Grindelwald, Johnny Depp's part now.
Oh,
so good. Oh man, what a good change. Anyway, I don't care. I think that's a pretty solid spot to wrap up at the moment.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, folks. I'm glad you were all here to hear us. We appreciate it as always. And if you're interested, our Twitter account is at capital H, capital T, capital M _ capital P for podcast. HTM_podcast. Hitting the Mark with Harry and Mark podcast. Also on YouTube. Like and subscribe if you're interested. Give us a follow. Really helps the algorithm. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.